Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new episode of the Uncovering Greatness podcast. As always, I am your host, Suleiman Steele, co-host, and today I'm joined by Barry Mitchell yet again. And today, as always, if you guys have followed the podcast, if you guys have been a part of the Uncovering Greatness world, you know that every January we start with Begin with the End in Mind. And we start with Begin with the End in Mind last week, and we're going to unpack that a little bit more today. Barry, how you doing? How's it going?
Good, Sully. Good to see you. Good to be with you on this week's Uncovering Greatness podcast. Really, the year's got off.
Yeah,
We're in week 2, up and running.
2 weeks in.
So yeah, it's again like last year. I think time's moving. So we can be sitting around thinking, what are we going to do, or we can be taking action because we're going to be at the end of January pretty fast.
And I mean, that's the thing about Begin with the End in Mind, right? Is that you can begin with it and go, okay, cool. Let's talk about like in quarters. By the end of the first financial quarter, let's just say from March, I would like to make R1 million as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. But if you do nothing, that will happen.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that, because one of the biggest problems that we see is that people will sit down and they'll have a plan, and then they'll spend 3 months contemplating the plan, and then the little voice comes up, and the fears around the actions, and should I action it, and what's right, and then they seek advice from other people, and then they start doing it, and they measure it too soon, and then they change it, and it just becomes complicated. And what I observe is a lot of times people end up doing the same of the same, but a little bit different, but just the same. And they get to the end of the year and they have the same sort of results.
So you said measure it too soon, right? So we're talking about like begin with the end in mind. What is that like?
Yeah, maybe measure is not the word. Analyze the results too soon. So you've got to be measuring right from the beginning.
Okay.
Whatever activity you're taking, keep measuring it. But I think, in the last podcast I talked about, that wonderful saying that I learned from either Mitch Sala or Jim Dornan. Most people way overestimate the short term and way underestimate the long term. So what happens is people start and they have this plan and they expect everything, the expectation is it's all going to come together. They start doing the work and then it does. Some of the things don't work.
Yeah.
They don't come together. Things are delayed. Customers that they expected to buy don't buy, and then they sometimes they panic, but then they get negative about it. So they change too fast, because they look at the result. They're focused on the result too much. I said it to you guys in our strategy meeting this morning. We have a very clear strategy for our next financial year starting March 1.
Yeah.
Very clear strategy, down to what area we expect to close sales, how much income we're going to bring in March, what the number is.
Yeah.
Very clear on that number. And what did I say to you guys? But we have to go into there with the expectation that some of that's not going to work.
Yeah.
That some of that's not going to work. But we also have the expectation that some of the stuff that we didn't even expect to come through is going to come through.
Yeah.
So it's not always, you have this plan, you have this strategic plan. It doesn't always go according to plan. But if you stick with it, the plan will manifest itself. It will arrive. And then when you look back, you go, oh wow, I see how that happened. Shit, I see why that didn't work, because there's stuff that I didn't really understand. Now I understand, and that's growth. But it's driving the activities that you honestly believe will give you the results.
I mean, so do you think that entrepreneurs and business owners are actually what's the word I'm looking for? It's sort of, are they, when it comes to those actions, right? Do you think that, especially when you run a team, are they aware of the actions that need to take place? In your opinion?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think a lot of times people want to do what they want to do. I go back to Alan C. Walter's definition of success, which I absolutely love. Success is the ability to find a want and then do what is needed to achieve that want. So in anything in life, you go, okay, I want that. Okay, good. You sit down and say, okay, what is needed to get there?
Yeah.
Now, my belief is this: in today's world of information, we shouldn't be saying I didn't really know what to do. we shouldn't. You want to lose weight? There are countless weight loss weight loss sites that you can go to.
Everywhere.
Pick one.
Everywhere.
Pick one.
Yeah.
And then stick to it.
Yeah.
Pick one, stick to it, and see what happens.
Don't try
and drive it.
Don't try to do all 5.
Don't try to do all 5. Don't try to become the master of friggin' health in 3 weeks and learn everything there is. Just stick to it. I honestly believe it's the same in business. Find something that works, that someone else has done, or that you've done in the past, that another business owner's done. Take their advice and apply it, and do what they did. Do what they did that allowed them to create what they created. You know, it says, do what is needed, not do what you want to do. Do what you feel like doing. Do what makes you happy. Do what you like. Do what is needed. So I think that's a lot of times where people get lost, is they don't do what's needed. You know, I have people, no, but I don't want to do that. Okay, well, good. Well, don't do it then. No, but I want to have that result. Well, that's the only way I know. So when I'm coaching people, teaching people, training people, I sit there and say, this is how I did it. This is, in my experience, this is I learned from these guys. This is what they created. I did this. I applied this. I tweaked it and changed it over a period of time once I created experience. But this is what I did. So if you go out and do it, you know, it's like the sales cycle.
Yeah.
I have a 6-step sales cycle. I've had a 6-step sales cycle for 30 years. I've been selling. The content of what happens in there changes, but the cycle, the process is exactly the same. I know right now, if I launch a new program today, well, the very first step, I start at step 1 of the cycle. In fact, I start at before step 1 of the cycle. I create the product and the offer. So I'm very clear that this is the product, this is what I'm going to sell, this is what I'm going to sell it for.
Yep.
Then I go, okay, cool. Then I start at step 1. Step 1 is target market. Who's my friggin' target market? Who's going to buy this program? Boom. Then I go, who's my target market? And I make a list of people on that I think, who I know, who I connect, who I don't know, who I need to get to know, who fit the avatar, who fit my target market. And guess what I do? I then decide, how am I going to get hold of them? And that's step 2 is now connect. How am I going to connect with them? Once I've connected with them, how am I going to pitch to them? Once I've pitched to them, what objections do I expect to come up? How am I going to handle those objections? What's the offer I'm going to make them? How am I going to close? And then I deliver, and then keep them in my world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then what I do is I make that list, and I go after that list, and I do it again and again and again and again and again. And the right people looking for me in the right time will buy. So what happens is, so go back to your question, do people know what to do? Sometimes I think maybe they don't, but then find someone who does, ask them the questions, get some advice, get a process, and stick to that friggin' process.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as you know, weight loss and all that sort of stuff is one of my favorite topics, because I spend so much time around it in terms of my own personal life. And I said this the other day. Someone said to me, I want to lose weight. I want to reset my body. And I go, hey, I know a way that I did it.
Yeah.
That gave me some amazing results. But you might not want to do it. But this is what I did. And I explained to them how I went on the juice fast, how I trained twice a day, That's how I did it. Now I can give you, if you want, anecdotal friggin' evidence of how it worked. I have the measurements. I know it worked. It took me 40 days. In 40 days, I lost 14 kgs, and then I kept that going.
Yeah.
People go, oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, good. Well, don't do it. What else could I? I don't know. That's
what I did.
Does that make sense? That's what I did. If I'm going to give you some advice, I can tell you how it worked for me.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee you'll lose 14 kgs. But what I can guarantee you is that if you do it and stick to it, you will lose weight, you will feel a lot better, and then you will learn.
Yeah,
and once you've done it, you learn and go, yeah, well, it worked well, it didn't work well, let me find something else, you tweak and change it.
Because, the end results will be completely different, right? Because you're completely different people. But there will be an end result if you stick to the process.
Sorry, I tell you to make a list of 200 potential people that could come to the Cashflow Club.
Yeah.
You go out, you connect with all those 200 people, you invite them to our next Cashflow Club, and you're going to get a result. Whatever that result is, we measure it at the end, we go back. Now, what's very clear is if I was to make a list of 200 people and phone 200 people versus your list of 200 people and you phoning 200 people, I'm pretty sure that my ability to close is a lot higher than yours. My results will be very different.
100%.
Because that's what I've done, and that's what I've done all my life.
Yeah.
So the question is if you start comparing yourself to me, you're going to have a bit of a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
However, you start off, you get good at doing it. In 6 months' time, 12 months' time, a year's time, who knows? Your results will probably even surpass mine because you now become absolutely focused on selling our cash flow club, and now you become a master of selling cash flow club. Whereas I used to sell cash flow club a lot. Now I don't sell cash flow. So does that make sense? And then you start learning from there. But the key component would be sticking to the process. I'll say to you, Sully, this is how I filled my cash flow clubs in the past.
Yeah.
This is what I did. So if you go do the same thing over a period of time, you will get results. I can't guarantee what those results be, but they will be results that'll get better and better and better if you stick to it and you learn from it.
So, because while you're speaking, I had the realization, I think we've probably spoken about it a few times as well, it's like that connection between health and business, right? They're actually quite similar in the sense of like we both reading, well, you suggested that we start reading this book called $100 Million Leads, and he speaks about weight loss. So you can either go and get lipo, or you can put in the work, the pain of
100%.
Working out.
Yeah.
And that's the same with business.
Well, you can go get a loan and say, "Oh, I made $2 million. No, someone loans you $2 million. You have $2 million in your bank."
Versus
or
putting
you can
in the
go
work.
out, you can put in the work to earn $2 million, sell $2 million worth of stuff, learn how to generate it, and you're going to learn along the way. But both will give you a result. You'll have $2 million in your bank account. One will be much quicker than the other one.
For sure.
The loan, if you have access to it, will be instantaneous.
Yeah.
The other one might take you 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. It's the same as weight loss. You can go get liposuction now. You personally will drop 15 kgs.
Done.
And you'll rock up at Circle on Thursday. I don't even know what the recovery time is, but let's people will go, "Wow, see, you're looking so good." And you'll walk straight up to that plate of nice friggin' bread rolls, and you'll keep munching on those, and 6 months later you'll be fat again. Because you went for that little short, quick fix, but for a period of time. And then what happens is, in order to recreate what you did, you have to go back and have that short, quick fix.
Yeah.
Whereas I know I put on a number of kgs since March last year. In fact, 15. But I know how to recreate what I did. I can go back. But the problem is I know how hard it is. It's hard. I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
I got to go back. My level of discipline. Why? Because from the 29th of December, I started on this journey again, and I'm on a goal. I want to drop another 15 kgs in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So I'm back on that. Okay, what do I have to do? Go back on a water fast. Drink juice, raw vegetables. It's not rocket science. I go back, but what I do know is if I duplicate what I did before, I'm pretty sure going to have the same results.
Yeah.
You get
if
that?
Not better, yeah.
Now, this time I'm going, okay, well, I'm not training for example, I'm not training for the World Rowing Champs, so my intensity of training is not as high as it was. Okay, good, well, I'll push my results out a little bit because I'm not, my cardio is not at that high level. If I wanted to get those results in that short period of time, well, guess what? I just duplicate what I did on the rowing machine, do it 6 days a week as well as my CrossFit, and I'll duplicate those results. But don't get me wrong, just because I know what to do and how to do it and I know the process, it doesn't mean it's friggin' easy. It means it's still hard because I got to get through this little voice, get through all the bullshit that I create about why not, get through, eating food's lekker, man.
Yeah.
Get through why I'm not going to eat any more Christmas mince pies, why I'm going to stick to the process that I want. It's the same as business. Just come out of holiday, people are like, woo, or, it would be so much better if I was still on the couch watching TV, or I could still go and watch rugby, or if I could go for a run at lunchtime because I feel like it. Well, guess what? You can't, because if you want to build your business, you got to focus on what needs to be done to build your business. It's not holiday time right now.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? And then you follow the process.
Yeah.
And if you stick to that process, and I'm a firm believer in this, when the time and the timing's right, if you do the right things will materialize for you. For you. You're going to metabolize a lot. If you go back to weight loss, you're going to metabolize food a lot different to me. That means you might drop weight faster than me, might drop weight not as fast as me, I can drop weight very fast and I pick up weight very fast. That's me. Other people are not the same. Nicole's not the same. Nicole doesn't drop weight as fast as me, but she definitely doesn't friggin' pick up weight as fast as I do. You get that?
Yeah.
So different metabolisms.
As
Now,
different businesses.
Nicole will not follow my process of eating. And that's okay. She has her process that keeps her fit.
That works for her.
And there's a lot of there's a lot of ways to do things. Like Robert Kiyosaki, I heard him say a number of times, there's a million ways to go to financial heaven. Find the one that works for you and work it. Let me say that again. Find the one that works for you and work it.
What does work it mean?
Think about it. What does work it mean?
Yeah.
Drive the necessary activities that need to be driven and do them when they need to be done. So you have a sales process. You need to, if the sales process says make a list of 200 people, make a list of 200 people. Don't negotiate with it. Don't second guess it. Don't sit there and think, yeah, but I've got a list of 5 and these are multi-millionaires, and so all I've got to do is just close one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get hold of one of them. That's not what the process says. The process says do 200. So do 200. Of that, you'll have some multi-millionaires, some broke people, but people that fit into whatever your target market is. And then work it. Once you've got that list, work it. What does work it mean? Do the activities. Make contact. If your make contact is pick up the phone or walk in or meet them for a cup of coffee or invite them to a free event or whatever your process is, work it and work it again and again. And you go through that process over a period of time. The more you work it, not the more work you do. You see, what happens is, I think at this time of the year, people go, I heard it last week at Thursday. I said, so what do you have to do to increase your results? How many people said, I have to work harder?
No, it was a good portion of the room.
I was like, why would you want to do that? And then people say, oh no, work smarter. But a lot of times I don't know if they know what that actually means.
I don't think so either.
So it's not about working harder. Yes, it's about working smarter, but it's about working hard when you need to do the things that you need to do. If your model says, hey, I've got to make 20 phone calls a day, well, guess what? That's the hard work that you need to do.
Yeah.
Focus on get those 20 calls out. You do that every single day. And then you do the other things that you need to do. But you focus on that. Because by focusing on that, those things will lead to the next thing. Buckminster Fuller teaches this concept called precession. Everything precedes something else.
Yeah.
You take a certain set of action, it will be preceded by something else. A lot of times we don't know what that is. So you keep taking the right action over a period of time, and the timing is right, the right things will come through. So work it. Work it. You go to gym, you work it. Don't go to gym and do the water circuit. Well, I'm gonna friggin' lose weight. I mean, right now, gyms. This is hundreds of people have signed up for gyms now.
Yeah.
And guess what? They're going in there, and they're all excited. But you'll have the group of people that'll go in there and work the water circuit. What's the water circuit? They rock in, they fill their water up, they walk from water thing to water thing, chat with a whole lot of people, lift the odd little weight, maybe do a little,
take the pictures.
and then they walk out the other side and they go, I went to gym. But they didn't drop a piece of sweat, they don't have any process, and then after 2 weeks they get bored because they're not getting the results they expected by going to gym. You can go to gym as much as you want. You don't have a program. Well, going to gym's a waste of time. You can go to your office every day and look at, right here on my wall. There's a prospect list.
Yeah.
I can look at that prospect list every day. Woo, woo, woo. And then what? I got to work it. I got to pick up the phone. I got to go through the process. Does that make sense?
100%.
And that's where results come from. So go back to what we talked about last week. Start with what you want, and then create the process. What's the process? And work that process.
Yeah.
Non-stop. Keep it going. Do it again and again and again and again. Therein lies the hard part. That's why, because people get bored, they don't get the results they want, they get frustrated and irritated.
Yeah. I mean, then it also ties back to like what you were saying earlier about measuring not measuring, but expecting results too soon. You start the process, you work it for a few days, and you're like, this is not working. And it usually, would you say that happens when you get no's? So let's just say I make a list of 200 people, I'm going to call 20 a day, and the first day I do the 20, but I actually get 20 no's.
Yeah.
Day 2, I'm like, this is not going to work. And then I'm gonna try something else.
Some people don't even get to 20 no's. They quit when they get the first 5 and they this is not working. Why? Because the little voice comes up, the fears come up. It's much easier to pull out than it is actually just to keep pushing through. and rather ask yourself the question, okay, what am I learning? Why am I getting those? What's happening out of this? What do I need to relook at? Because once you start taking action, you can only learn once you start taking action. So you step back, and that therein lies the problem. Is that's where it becomes hard, you know. So I mean, I'll take it back to sport and getting fit. So this time last year, I was doing a lot of running. I was doing a lot of rowing, doing a lot of running. I'm not a fast runner. I'm generally, I term myself as a bit of a plodder. So when I get to running at around about 5.5 minutes a k, for me, I'm really running. I'm pushing myself. That's a good pace for me.
Yeah.
If I get it anywhere between 5 and 5.5 minutes, that
works
is
for you.
Then I'm really running well.
Yeah.
And then I went into a process where I did a lot of running, and then I got an injury, and that injury kept me out of running for 3 months last year, right up until December, and I've just started getting back on the road again. Man, is it frustrating? I'm running 5Ks. I don't even know if I can term it running. I'm plodding forward to keep going, to get through 5Ks in a period of time, and I'm running it at 7 minutes a frigging K. It's
tough.
But you get that.
Yeah.
But I go back to, I know what I can do. But what I do know is that I know that if I push through this,
You'll get
in the
back
next
there.
week or 2 weeks, I'll be back at 6.5. In the next week or 2 weeks, I'll be back at 6, and in the next 2 or 3 months, I'll be running at that level. But I have to push through running 5Ks 4 or 5 times a week, every single friggin' week. I'm not getting the results I want. In sales terms, I'm not closing the sales I want, but I'm out doing the grind. Does that make sense? I'm out working the process. You know, I'm back in terms of running, walking, because I need to get, I had a foot injury. I need to get my foot back into moving, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Does that happen in business? Yes. We get our sales going, we get a good customer base, and then we take our foot off the pedal, we stop doing what we did to keep the customers going, business is coming in and we think it's all cool, and suddenly we look back 3 months later and we're like, oh cuck, suddenly 2 or 3 customers cancel, or we finish their contracts, and we're like, oh cuck, what happened? And you got to get back in the saddle. But it's not just going to pick up like that. That's why, like anything, you want consistency. You got it. You know, one of the biggest issues that I've struggled with all my life is long-term consistency. I don't have a problem with 3 or 6 months to friggin' hit things hard.
Yeah.
But and I'm as I get older, maybe, you know, some of us take a long friggin' time to learn. But as I get older, I'm learning more and more the importance of long-term consistency, long-term discipline, because you don't have to go back to the stage of, oh crap, I've got to start all over again, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
So find what works and keep working it. And I believe, you know, the more you keep working it, you know, if I look at one area in my life when it comes to training, I found something that worked, and that was learning from Blair Singer. And for nearly 18 years now, that's what I've worked.
Yeah.
And I've stuck with it, and I've tweaked and changed it, but I've stuck with
Same
the core principles of how we've taught. And over 18 years, I'm confident to say I've mastered that. I've mastered what I was learning from Blair Singer.
Agreed.
Yeah, but that's long-term consistency.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sticking to
you know,
the process.
it's not like, oh, you know, I started training like Blair Singer, and 6 months later someone told me to add PowerPoints and then do this.
Yeah.
And then it just what it ends up doing is creating a whole lot of confusion. When it comes to training, I'm not friggin' confused.
No.
Does that make sense?
100%.
So you find it. It's a great question. What does it mean, work it? Find the process and work the process. Does that make sense?
No, 100%.
And in closing, and I'll talk about it in one of the next, but it is keep it simple.
Yeah.
You know, when you find the process, keep the simple process. The more simpler it is, the easier it is to work. Because the less you have to think, the less the little voice comes up. And we'll chat about that in one of the upcoming podcasts.
Yes, indeed-o. And something I also want to touch on for one of the next podcasts, just to set you guys up, give you guys a little teaser. Mr. Barry Mitchell is working on his second book. There's a piece in there. It's a few things, but there's one piece in there that kind of stuck with me, and it says, "Being an entrepreneur takes guts." And I was like, "Holy shucks, that is." because I feel like people just think you get into it and you're gonna make piles of money. This thing is not easy. It's not hard. It's not easy. There's simple processes, but it does take guts, right?
I learned that from Robert Kiyosaki on one of the very first sessions I went with him in Phoenix, Arizona, and I can remember Robert standing up saying, to be an entrepreneur takes guts. It takes a huge amount of guts, and the problem with most people is they just don't have the guts, or they don't set themselves up to build the guts that it takes. So yeah.
We'll be touching on that more in the next few podcasts. You guys can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and anywhere else you listen to your podcasts. Thank you guys for joining us. This is another episode of the Uncovering Greatness podcast. We will be back next week. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Leave your comments, leave your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Is it helping you? Isn't it helping you? We value your opinions. Thank you guys, and we will see you guys next week. Be awesome.
Bye.